Hey everyone, Jeff and I recorded this episode before the Christian McCaffrey news came down that he was going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. As you'll hear in the show, we were thinking it might not be as serious, and we did talk a little bit about Mike Davis in case the injury was more, but didn't really expect McCaffrey to be out for as long as he's going to be. They say 4 to 6 weeks. McCaffrey says he's going to try to be back quicker, and of course he's going to try, but high ankle sprains and running backs don't mix very well. So we'll see how that plays out. But Mike Davis does become an ad here that you can get on your team. The only thing is it's not going to be a full year thing. So you're going to get a couple weeks worth, but you could be, running backs, you're missing running backs all over the place this week. So Mike Davis definitely becomes an ad. He'd definitely be in our top 5 ads for the week, but you still got the Giants running backs. And now there's the news that Devontae Freeman could be trying out with the Giants possibly tomorrow. So we'll see how that one plays out. And if Freeman is, I think you could take a chance and add Freeman. We might have news before the actual waivers go through, which typically on most leagues go through late Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. So we might have some clarification on the Freeman news. If that happens, I'm not sure how I like that between Freeman, Lewis, Gallman. There's a lot of people that could have an opportunity, which isn't always the greatest. At this point, that made Mike Davis jumps up the list. And Jerick McKinnon to me is a nice ad. Mostert looks like he's going to at least miss the next week. Coleman looks like he's going to miss the next week. McKinnon could be a really good option for at least 1 or 2 weeks. So I'd put him up there. So, it's all over the board right now, but just wanted to give this little disclaimer before we get to the episode. And the rest of the episode, you'll hear what Jeff and I think about these ads and what you should do. Check it out.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're talking week 3 waiver wire, and we had a bunch of injuries there in week 2. So there is a few guys that you can look at picking up for week 3. So let's just jump right into this thing. And I'm not actually 100% sure where to go with the first player, but I say it's a bunch of running backs, but I guess maybe we want to go with, I don't even feel good about it though, Jeff. I don't know. Let's see what you think about this. Do we want to start it off with the Giants running backs and maybe go Dion Lewis here? I think he has the most opportunity. It's really a Dion Lewis, Wayne Gallman thing here. And I think we've seen Wayne Gallman before. And he was okay at times, but I feel like Dion Lewis has just more, there's something more there. Dion Lewis has a little more versatility and could be a good option. Or is this offense just going to be terrible and we don't want any of these guys? That's always the risk. So the thing is, that's why, so these guys, Dion Lewis, Wayne Gallman, there's going to be opportunity for them. Obviously, Saquon's not coming back. So I kind of like Dion Lewis here. We've seen him be good in the past, and I think Wayne Gallman's just a really average running back, and he in a good situation, I bet you Wayne Gallman could actually put up some points for you, but I'm not sure how much of a great situation this is. And Dion Lewis is then going to be there. He's going to be able to get some carries. If they're down, which they'll probably be at times, Dion Lewis should be able to catch some passes, get a lot of work that way. So he becomes interesting to me, and I think he's going to slide into the number 1 spot for me, which might not be everybody might not feel this way, but I'm going to go Dion Lewis. I think he's an interesting pickup for the year.
Yeah,
it's tough though. I know.
Obviously I have my reservations. I like all the points you made. I do agree with you. And he does have the most upside because there's no one else there right now. So I do have to believe that he's going to be the number 1. You take a shot at him because it's not like you're just picking a guy for a week or 2 because of injury. This is the full season because of injury, but still, it's not a fill-in. So I do think that you would have to take a shot at him as your number 1.
Yep. And Wayne Gallman's also, I think, a pickup, but I just don't feel great about him. Wayne Gallman wouldn't be my number 2 pickup. I think my number 2 pickup is probably going to have to be Jerick McKinnon. Mm-hmm. And he looked good in his own right. And then with injuries to Mostert, injuries to Coleman, while they might not be that serious, I think McKinnon is just going to have a shot here. That's, they got him a couple of years ago to be the guy, and he just has been hurt. And he showed something, this past game that he can be a player. And really, even week 1, he didn't play a lot, but he showed a little bit in the brief time he played that, maybe he can still do it here. And I like Jared McKinnon. I think he can, I like the story if he can come back and become a player again here after a couple of years off. And I think it's gonna be solid.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Jerick McKinnon would be the talent I would rather have on my roster than, say, a Deion Lewis. But at the same time, we don't really know where the injuries are. But if there is any injury, if there's at least one going in, I mean, next week they play the Giants. So you have to believe that it's going to be a great matchup. He's definitely streamable, even if, say, Mostert or whoever is going to be healthy very quickly. I think I really like him for next week. But you're drafting him hoping that he keeps playing well and then he just becomes part of the rotation.
Yeah. Oh, another disclaimer here quick. We always do our list here with players that are owned in 40% of ESPN leagues or less, because you might be wondering why we're not maybe talking about Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson is owned in about 43% of leagues. So because of that, he's not going to be eligible for our list, but he'd be a solid pickup too as well, but he's not going to make our list today. So I'm going to throw another running back out here, and it's going to be Joshua Kelly again, 26% owned right now, and he had 23 carries last week. He didn't turn it into a lot, but the opportunity's there, right? And that's a lot of it. The opportunity, and he's on I think a solid team with Justin Herbert there at quarterback now. I think this offense is better than I expected. They could be better than I expected. And just there's a lot of opportunity for Joshua Kelly right now. And I can't imagine that Justin Jackson, when he comes back healthy, he's going to have anything to do with taking over for Josh Kelly. It's not going to happen. Kelly might lead this team in carries this year, the way it's going. Austin Eckler's the main back, I would say, but Kelly might lead him in carries, actually. So
yeah, I would agree.
He needs to be owned at this point.
Absolutely.
So those, I think, are the main running back pickups I would say for this week. Again, none of them are they're guys that probably should be rostered, but I'm not in love with these picks.
Which is wild too, because you think if a major injury like Saquon going down, you would automatically say, okay, well, I'll grab his backup and he's definitely playable. It is one of the few teams where that is not true at all.
Yeah, they just don't have that sure thing behind them. I don't want to say I wish it was more clear cut, but if Mostert was actually hurt for a while, Jerick McKinnon becomes a number 1 pick easily. Jerick McKinnon would be the guy, but it doesn't work out that way. So I'm going to jump over to tight end position here, and Jonnu Smith needs to be owned. And he was still below the 40% mark there at, let's see here, 38.6% owned right now. He needs to be on every roster. He should be starting at tight end in every league. He's going to be a top 10 guy for me for most of the season because, he's that good, and Tannehill likes him. Tannehill's going to him. And we talked about this in the offseason, hoping that Jonnu Smith could become a player, a fantasy relevant player. And it's happened a lot quicker than I thought it would, and in a big way, getting a couple touchdowns. So he needs to be on every roster right now. I think he's a top 10 guy. I don't know. What do you think? Top 10 probably tight end right now?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. The amount of damage he can do with less catches than these other guys is obviously big enough. He is the number 1 guy. We'll see what happens when A.J. Brown comes back. But I'm going to be quite honest. Even when he does come back, I think Corey Davis, we can get to wide receiver. I think he'll be on this list as well. I really like him. But I do think that it will be A.J. Brown, Jonnu Smith, and then Corey Davis. I think he will be in there. And they use him in unique ways because he's such an athletic tight end that it won't just be, short little routes. He can go a little deeper. You could, throw it to him in the backfield and he can run it, little screen passes, kind of like they do with Higbee almost in LA. So I really like it. I think he is going to be a intricate part of what they decide to do outside of Derrick Henry. So I love Jonnu Smith, and I'm glad to see him breaking out so early because you just don't know when you don't throw it that often. So it's great to finally see a game where they really showcase the passing game.
So you talked about Corey Davis, and I think Corey Davis still should be talked about for a waiver wire pickup. He only had what 3 catches this past week, but he did get a touchdown, and he's involved in the offense. I believe he's going to be out there. So Corey Davis is one because the wide receiver grouping isn't that great at this 40% mark to me. Corey Davis, obviously, Russell Gage. I think you got to start thinking about here, right? He's had 2 good games in a row. And it looks like the Falcons' defense isn't very good. They're going to be in a lot of shootouts. And if that's the case, they can support a third receiver being a fantasy relevant player. And Russell Gage has been relevant for 2 weeks. I definitely think you got to consider picking him up at this point, right?
Yeah, why not? Week 1, 9 receptions. You don't think he's going to do that, but he had 6 today, and he had 114 yards the first week, 46 this week, but with a touchdown. The way that they're throwing, and if you look at the teams they're about to play too, they went against Seattle and Dallas. Now they're about to hit Chicago, which could be a lower, like maybe they don't have to go crazy with that. I don't know. But then you hit Green Bay, Carolina, Minnesota, Detroit. You do have favorable matchups, and everyone knows what Julio can do. You can't get away from him. Ridley is turning into that threat. It's going to soon enough, it's going to turn into Russell Gage and perhaps Hurst even kind of running around unguarded in the middle because people are so frightened that Ridley and Julio are going to just gouge him every single time. I think Gage is a real option. I would have no problem picking him up now.
Yep, I think he needs to be at least thought about right now. Probably should be on the end of a bench, and we'll see if I would still need to see another week from him, but if you get one more week, it's a thing. You got to use him then. So some of the other none of these wide receiver pickups are great. I'll say that. But
I was going to say those are the only 2 that I feel comfortable actually promoting at the time. There's a couple of guys on here that maybe you're looking at, like if you see it again or something, but nothing really.
No, so the other guys would be, it depends on what the situation ends up being with Devontae Adams' ankle or whatever the injury was, right? So Alan Lazard, Valdez-Scantling, I can't say one or the other right now. I still can't tell you who would be the pickup. But that's something to monitor towards the end of the week and what Adams is looking like and if he's going to be playing or not. You would tend to believe he's going to. If he wasn't, Lazard and Valdez-Scantling become a lot more interested. And you know what? They still, in a deeper league, if you're hurting at receiver, they still could be options, but they're not great options. After that, to me, it becomes the young guys again. I still want to throw these young guys on my bench and hope that something is there. Like Jalen Reagor, I bring him up every week, but I do like the player and I like the talent. And he got 4 catches this past week. Again, it's not like this massive game, but sometimes you can see these young guys get a little bit more involved. He had 4 targets in each of the first 2 weeks, which is not, again, huge, but it's good to see. Laviska Shenault is involved in the offense with Jacksonville. He had what 3 catches in each of the first 2 games, but this past week he had 5 carries. Week 1 he had 2 carries. So they've gotten 7 carries in 2 weeks for a rookie wide receiver. So he's definitely involved in the offense, and it could turn it into more and more. So that's another one. And Michael Pittman, now with the Paris Campbell injury, maybe it opens up some room for Michael Pittman to do something there in Indianapolis. And I think he had, let me pull this up. He had 6 targets this past week. Yeah. So 6 targets is solid. Yeah.
Yeah. And we saw that passing game wasn't all that good today, but he had 4 catches for 37 yards. He looked good doing it though. Just watching him do it, he just very good body control. He doesn't look like a rookie, like running his routes and kind of like giving Rivers a target to throw at. I was very impressed watching him. You do hear a lot of good stuff about him, and I'm not usually, I don't want to jump on that right away, but Pittman did look like a wide receiver that was very comfortable out there, which is always good to see. And I completely agree with you going back to the Shenault one. Not even having a huge role right now, but they're using him everywhere. The last 2, and this is, standard, but he went for, 10 points and 7 points week 1 and week 2. He wouldn't ruin your day if you actually played him in the first 2 weeks when you know anything about him. And now you're about to hit Miami and Cincinnati. So if you're kind of desperate, he's an interesting guy to kind of use as a streamer because you're about to go against some really bad defenses.
Yeah. And a lot of these guys, I'm not saying to release relevant players for them, obviously, but if you have spots at the end of your bench, these are the kind of players I think you put there and just hope that wait and see, maybe something more comes out of it. Even T. Higgins. T. Higgins had 6 targets in the Thursday night game. He had 3 catches out of it, but had 6 targets, which is great to see. And Chase Claypool got the big touchdown catch for Pittsburgh there. So
he's turning into a deeper threat. I don't think there's enough production yet to kind of say go for it.
Nope.
I mean, I think it would kind of take an injury or something, but it's very interesting that, I mean, the first 2 games as a rookie, he had against the Giants, he had 2 catches for 39 yards, and then he had a rush as well. So he had almost 5 points. And then that obviously today, where that long touchdown, he is starting to build a little bit of rapport, and he is a big wide receiver. You're starting to see how they're going to use him, and it might be a little differently than they do, say, a James Washington or Deontay Johnson. So he's a kind of a monitor one, but he is a big-time talent. So it's always fun to kind of like to keep an eye on him.
Then, this is, I guess, more of the if you need to plug in a guy and you're just reaching. And the young guys here aren't as safe. Maybe I think this player might be safer than others is Keelan Cole. So again, not a like this amazing pick, but in opening game he had 5 for 47 and a touchdown on 5 targets. This past game he had 6 for 58 and a touchdown on 7 targets. And Minshew's been better than we thought. The offense is better than we thought. Keelan Cole, if he continues at least this, he's a guy you can plug in maybe, plug into your lineup and be hoping for that touchdown and get you, 10 to 12 points. So it's a little further down that you don't, want to hopefully rely on something like that, but he's become interesting, I'll say, as just a fill-in type guy that you might need, especially with all these injuries going on. And then let's see here. A couple more running backs I will bring up. I'm not too worried about Christian McCaffrey, but if it was to be a thing, you got to pick up Mike Davis. I don't love Mike Davis, but you got to do it, right? It's just you got to wait and you got to see what he is. Don't love it. And then, would you pick up Myles Gaskin at all, or are you just not interested?
No, I'm not. He had a pretty decent game, but I'm pretty over the Dolphins running back situation. If I was desperate, then yeah, I'll try anything. but no, I don't have a very. I don't think the ceiling is very high. I don't think you can predict what they're going to do, what the team is going to look like even in 3 weeks. So I don't like that situation at all.
No, I just can't see it being. I mean, it's really you have to have lost a few running backs this past week, right? You lost Saquon and you lost Mostert, and you gotta go throw somebody in there, right? So maybe that's when you do it.
And I was going to say, I'll throw well, maybe 2. I want to talk about 2 names, but we usually jump over quarterback because everyone's kind of set.
I do see there's a name for sure, top of the list.
Okay. Tannehill.
Yeah, has to
100%. And I'm very happy to get to keep promoting him because he is just an incredibly solid quarterback. He picked right where he left off last year. Week 1, 23 points. This week, 34, almost 35. And the thing about Tannehill as well, being able to pick him up, is there are some guys that you probably picked up thinking you could play that are not playing at the top of their game right now. And it's people like Tom Brady, it's people like Wentz. You can pick him up and feel very, very safe about what you're going to get as a quarterback. So he's definitely should be on the top of your list. The other guy I don't think there's another quarterback I feel incredibly confident about, but I did want to get your thoughts on Herbert moving forward. He looked really good. We don't like to play rookies, I know that. But what do you think not saying you're going to throw him into your starting lineup, but what I don't know. What are your thoughts on him, and does he have any fantasy value?
Not yet to me, but he was good enough in his first outing that I could see a future where we could use him when it gets to bye weeks. I would need to see obviously a little more from him, but he playing against the Super Bowl champs, and he looked like. He had confidence. He looked like he belonged. I think he can pick up a few yards on the ground even. Nothing special, but he could pick up a few yards there, I think.
I mean, he rushed a few. He had a rushing touchdown.
I think he can do something there. I didn't know he had that in him either, but I'm not going to be there yet, but he is an interesting player to me where when it comes to bye weeks, and if the matchup was right, the matchup would have to be perfect. I don't know what that is exactly, but it could be something I turn into. But I think there's enough other guys right now where I'm not really too worried about it. I'm not going to go with that pick yet. So me try to think if there's any. We'll look into some defenses here. Just trying to see if I can throw out a random streaming defense for you here at the last second. Which, you know what, I actually wouldn't mind this one. Chargers next week. Chargers against Carolina to me is actually interesting because Carolina, even though McCaffrey's there, I don't think that's a great offense. And Chargers just did really, really well against Kansas City. So that could be an interesting one for me.
I think that's a great pick. And against Cincinnati, who is not a great, obviously, offense, but week one, when you think you would still be figuring stuff out, they got 11 points for people in standard scoring. So we already knew that they're pretty good, and especially with Bosa, he's such a beast. He kept people in check. I mean, by the end of the game, he was on the sidelines. But against Carolina, heaven forbid without McCaffrey, it would be a slaughter.
And then the other one for me, one more option I throw out there is going to be Titans. Titans playing against Minnesota. So Minnesota has quickly turned very poor here. They have not been good. And Titans, I think, have a solid defense. I think this is one where they could it might be hard for Kirk Cousins to do much again. I don't know what happened to Cousins. That was such a bad game. So disappointing for me as being like an Adam Thielen guy here that maybe this offense can't get it done, which is surprising to me. They should have a guys, right? Cousins should be good enough. Dalvin Cook, I mean, Adam Thielen, but maybe they need Diggs out there, right? They lost Diggs and it's showing. So I think Titans would be my other pick. I don't know if you got any others, but I think that's probably it for waiver wire for me.
Yeah, I think that's it.
So, all right. Well, so let's see. Actually, I'm going to look at one more thing here. I didn't look at streaming quarterbacks. I haven't looked at the schedules very much yet, so I want to check this out real quick. And, we brought up obviously Tannehill, but I was going to see if there's if you're desperate and Tannehill's not around, if there's anything you could possibly do here. Some weeks there's absolutely none. So let me pull up my quarterback schedules again here. Let's see and go down the list again. Oh, so obviously Tannehill, that's a good one too, because going against Minnesota, who to me has turned into a bad team, right?
Yeah.
So
actually, I was going to say, I wanted to, there was one guy that, one more guy that has been doing very well, and we kind of breezed over him, but Minshew.
Okay, so Minshew, you know what? He's a lot better than I expected, even.
His numbers have been great. I think you're about to play Miami. I do have to feel like he has got to be at the top of the list.
I could definitely see a good game coming from Minshew against Miami. I like that one. That's a very solid play there, which I never thought I'd get to the point where I say Gardner Minshew was actually a good play, but he's proven me wrong a lot. Like I've always thought that this guy was just, I think it really did start this way. I feel like he was being overhyped just because of who he was. He's just an interesting guy with an interesting name, but I think it's obviously become more than that, right? He's actually a good player. So I think that's actually a pretty solid one here. So let's see if there's anything else that I would like. Not too much. There's really not like any major plays that I think those are the best ones. Tannehill for sure. You go get Tannehill against Minnesota. You go get Minshew against Miami. I think that's a pretty solid one as well. And I think I'd be, Trubisky against Atlanta Falcons. I'm not saying that's the worst thing in the world. Falcons defense hasn't been very good.
Yeah, I get it. It pains me to say. I do understand like the upside of that, because if Atlanta gets to a lot, you're gonna have to throw it a ton. Who cares if he throws 4 interceptions as long as he has a couple touchdowns? So I don't mind that one. I think the other one, if you are a little in desperation, in need, I think Baker showed me enough in week 2 in Cincinnati. They're going against Washington, which shouldn't be a crazy, hard schedule. But I don't expect anything great out of him. But I think he could give you 20 points or a very average kind of showing. They're probably going to run all over Washington, so he should be able to set up with some play action and get a touchdown or so. All
right, so that's going to do it for waiver wire. So might as well we'll talk quick about the Seahawks and Patriots game from Sunday night, which Seahawks won 35-30. Patriots got stopped on the goal line there at the end of the game. Russell Wilson. Let's start with Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson is just ridiculous right now. This guy, I mean, he might be the best quarterback in the league right now. Honestly, he might be the best right now in the league. I know that's saying he's better than Patrick Mahomes and saying he's better than Lamar Jackson, but honestly, I think he might be. He's been that good over 2 weeks. 5 touchdowns, 288 yards. He threw a pick. It wasn't even his fault. Greg Olsen went right through Greg Olsen's hands, right into McCourty, right to McCourty. Wilson is just insane right now. I don't know. Maybe I'm going a little too overboard saying but I don't think so.
Yeah, I was just saying you're preaching the choir here because I'm a huge fan of him. I mean, if I still had a pick in fantasy, I would probably take those 2 guys over him, but it'd be very, very close. Especially, and it sounds crazy, but I think I could actually see a world where I would put him over Mahomes. Possibly. I know it's blasphemy, but
it's crazy. I know
how good he's playing though. If you could jumble those 3 up, I would have no issue with it.
No, I mean Russell's just that good and spreading the ball around today. Those touchdowns went to 5 different players there. DK caught the big 54-yard touchdown, which is great to see. Tyler Lockett 7 for 67 a touchdown. David Moore gets one. Chris Carson gets one, and Swain gets one. Throwing it everywhere. Carson has 17 for 72 on the ground. Carson's been pretty solid through 2 weeks. Yeah.
I feel like Chris Carson got a lot of those, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he got a lot of that yardage rushing at the end of the game. He must have. Yeah. Because I felt like he wasn't doing a whole lot, and he kind of got like the catch for the touchdown was the thing that kind of buoyed him. Yeah. And it's kind of bizarre to watch a guy that has usually getting, 20 carries a game and doing it all from the ground. All of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, he's been finding a way to do it through the air. I don't know if that worries you at all or not. The way that they're throwing right now, there's no reason to slow down. Do you think that is going to affect the run game?
I mean, maybe a little bit, but I think Carson is going to be involved in the receiving game too, where I think he's a very solid RB2. There might be a week or two where he doesn't do much, but I think he's going to have more good weeks than not. And I think he's going to be very solid. I think he always just gets overlooked, and he did again this year, but it's showing right now that he can play, and he's going to be involved. This team, though, Seattle, that offense is so good right now, and it's good seeing everybody get involved with that. But, I mean, New England side of things, their defense is what let them down in this one, but I don't even know if it's really letting them down. I guess Seattle's that good. But Cam, 2 rushing touchdowns, threw for 1, 397 yards throwing today. I would like to see Cam get a chance to run that thing in at the end, but it didn't happen. Edelman 8 for 179. If you would have thought, Brady leaving was going to hurt Edelman, I guess not. Cam Newton has quickly fallen in love with Julian Edelman.
Yeah, so that is good to know.
Yeah, very quickly that happened.
And that is a ridiculous stat line for Julian Edelman.
It is.
Absolutely wild.
It's actually kind of cool, good seeing N'Keal Harry had 12 targets. Caught 8 balls for 72.
Thank goodness. I was really afraid that he was going to go into the doghouse. We've seen so many players not perform to where they should and absolutely get buried on this team. So I'm glad that they're sticking with him. And what about Bird, though? Kind of out of nowhere.
Yep. 9 targets there. Got 6 for 72. That's a solid outing there for Bird as well.
Yeah, I mean, is he going to be the third option now? I'm trying to figure it out, and it's fun too because we had talked in the first week about how Cam Newton ran it, and I was like, I think he's going to do whatever is needed, and he's going to be Swiss Army knife, and he needed to throw, and it's great to see he can absolutely do it. I mean, you do have people you can throw to. I'm not saying I worry about like Bird and Harry because I think that is going to be dependent on game flow. Yep. Edelman, obviously safer. Probably touchdowns probably won't be a ton, but he's going to chew up, especially in PPR. He's going to be great. How do you see that going after seeing a rush-heavy game and now a, all-out throw, even though he had 2 rushing touchdowns, but he threw obviously a lot more in this one.
I think they're a little more behind this one, so they had to do that, but I think Cam can do it. That's the beauty about Cam, though, too, is he can do anything. He can still throw the ball, obviously, too, but I don't think they'll throw this much. This is probably going to be more unusual. 44 attempts, I don't see that's going to happen very often. But I think what they really want to do is they want to control the clock, and they want to control the game. And they want to do that with Cam and maybe with Sony Michel, that kind of thing. But Sony Michel wasn't very good today. He didn't really get much opportunity. But I think that's what they really want to do, is they want to control the clock. They don't want to get into a game like this. And I think they'll be able to do that most of the time and just, keep it lower scoring. Cam Newton's going to probably rush a touchdown or two. I don't think the receivers will play like this again. And I think Patriots, they don't want to get into this kind of game. And I think this defense, I think they're hurting a little bit now with everyone not playing this year. It showed a little bit today, but Cam, though, putting up points in fantasy, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, that is, I think, all we got for week 3 waiver wire, and then we'll be back tomorrow. We got some ranks, so look up on instagram.com/fantasyfootballprofit for the rankings to go up there and get your comments in, because we're going to try to we'll talk about your comments on the show tomorrow and what you think about the ranks for the week. So get in there, and then also get some questions in. Look for the mailbag post as well. We're going to have a mailbag post up on Instagram. We'll have all the questions you can come up with, trade questions, flex questions, mainly for start, sit. Just do flex questions, anything you could think of. Get them on there. We'll answer those on Thursday's show. So that will do it for tonight. Talk to you guys next time.